Hello everyone, it's been a little while since I did a video. I hope that you're doing well. Today I wanted to share my voice with you and go over a few topics that have been coming up in my life and maybe in yours as well. And I wanted to do that through a collective reading. The theme of today is very much all about emitting your own frequency. But in order to do this, in order to talk about this, I thought maybe we would let the cards decide what messages are most important for the collective right now. So just as I'm making my way in to this energy, to this space again with you, where I'm just opening to receive messages, just ask you to also tap into your receiving heart. To come into your breath so that we can together really build some momentum to move forward with in terms of emitting our own frequency, because this is going to change everything in your day. When you emit your own frequency versus when you let the frequency of everything that's around you be sponged into you, it changes you and what it is that you want for yourself, what it is that you feel about yourself and the world around you. And for those of us that haven't learned, I guess, how to fully stand in our strength, boundaries, those kinds of things, we're just still practicing. It's really good to get a handle on this emitting of your own frequency, so that when you do come into contact with other people, you are knowing where to sit, you're knowing where feels best for you. Alright, so I have the Starseed deck here because I have a feeling that those that struggle with this the most, potentially, might be more on the side of being very receptive, very empathic in the world, and just want to heal people, want to help people, but this can sometimes mean that you take on the energies of other people, of other environments around you, and let's see what the cards have to say. So I'm going to do this here, and this here. So just rehydrating if you have some water or something with you. Again, just stepping into this frequency of receiving, of allowing. I have some amethyst here, some strengthening, grounding crystal here, and then the clear quartz. So, touching on our aura, clearing our aura space with the quartz, touching on our crown, opening it to receive information. And we're touching on our grounding space, where we can really come in to the frequency of safety, of security, and let that replenish you. It's very important to ground into that space, feel that connection that you have to your inner energies. And just take a breath of bliss here with me. So interesting. We have the Seas of Mintaka. This has been coming up quite a lot. These glistening waters. Let's see if I can, there we go. These beautiful glistening waters. So working with the energy of water here, coming into more of the flow of life. Coming into the surrender, the releasing, the letting go of control. The letting go of being able to predict everything. And actually allow space for the universe, for spirit to show us what we need to know, show us where to go. We are kind of not working against, but working at a slightly different pace or way from society when we work with this more feminine flow, because it's very receptive, it's very releasing. So with this card, it's reminding us that we have, some of us have these, whether it's a link in the past, a link to the future of a grandiose vision, a beautiful, blissful vision of what the world could be. And this comes from very clean waters, as it's being shown here. It's like everything is in its crystalline, pure state. And this perfection is something that we aim toward. It's not something that we kick ourselves about if we're not there, if we're if the world doesn't look like that. It's more that we bring that frequency to every day as much as we possibly can. We understand that this is possible, this frequency is possible to tap into. And that very much sits beautifully with this idea of emitting your own frequency. You are tapping in beyond what is predictable about the world. So we have an idea of what's gone on here, you know, through our history. We have an idea of how the day might go through living in the present, you know, getting up every day and seeing the routine that the world follows. But if we go into seeing the potential, this is going beyond predictability and into a space where we can feel into these higher frequencies that might exist, that could become real if we can say yes to them, if we can open to these potentials being real. It's kind of like we have to persistently allow for the possibility that there could be more to life than what we predict there to be and what has been in the past and what is in the present, and we allow the future vision to pull us forward into what potentials exist, what potentials we can open to, get ourselves in the lane of. If we can see 3 roads, and we see the road of potential, of future, we can get into that lane, we're always going to be moving forward. The water is always going to be washing itself, coming back and forth, and there's going to be constant movement. So there's so much to say about water, and so much to say about how it's this life-giving energy, love, emotions. They are your guiding compass here, right? And if we can open to, first of all, I would say we need to open to the unconscious spaces of ourself where we deny this potential, where we deny this ever becoming real. That's definitely something that maybe got rattled out of you as a child. Many of us are very imaginative as a child and as children. We have so much to offer to the world in terms of imagination, in terms of deep feeling. But things happen along the way into adulthood that shakes us out of this belief that there's potential here, that things don't just, that our frequency can affect change here. It's such a beautiful card to remember that this is part of you. This potential is part of you, and if it doesn't feel like it's part of you, it's because something unconsciously needs to be looked at. So I have a whole plethora of resources and information surrounding working with your unconscious mind. I do it in the Akashic space. I work with the shadow, with the dark goddess, in order to face these unconscious beliefs. And then we can turn now to what is conscious in the light, to bringing this consciousness of light here and now, and actually getting into that lane and allowing it to be exactly what it is, saying yes to that potential, and then letting it go. You let it go with the waves, you let it go into spirit. You're not doing all of this work yourself. This is a co-creation with the universe. So that's the first part of how we can emit our frequency, is to believe that our frequency can change that which is around us, that other people can align with our light frequency if we do the inner work of the unconscious mind to clear that space. And then we come to situations with brand new eyes, with the eyes of what our inner child would look at the situation as full of adventure, full of curiosity, full of magic with life, you know. It's truly magical when we can tap into that inner child space. But the other side of the inner child is the shadow. The shadow is the part of the inner child that got wounded, that got hurt along the way. And so we have to face the unconscious first, because we all have fears of rejection, fears of predation. All kinds of fears are there that you've picked up along the way. So, again, I have tons of resources surrounding this topic. So, you can email me at misssynchronicity. So, misssynchronicity@gmail.com. You can find me on Facebook, on Instagram, misssynchronicity, all across the board. So, it's just a huge topic to get into right now. We don't have enough time, but it does take time to go through that unconscious space. Just wanted to re-emphasize that. So you may actually jump from this next card. We're going to jump, but remembering that there's always this to come back to, is that unconscious, bringing the unconscious to light. It's always a move forward, move back, move forward, but move back when it comes to learning how to emit your true frequency. So the next part of emitting our true frequency. Oh, interesting. So, this is called the Cosmic Heart. And it says, devotion, potency, make your life a moving prayer. Beautiful. So, with the words devotion and potency, come for me this idea for the collective, for all of us, is this, it's a type of persistence. So when we're doing, this is the key here, right? This is the frequency we're coming to bring. This is the emittance of the frequency that's within this pure. But in order to get to this last stage, whatever this is going to be here, we have to devote ourselves. We have to accept and commit to doing something about it. And that may mean having to go through emotional loops that it's just hard to feel like you're moving forward, but actually you are. It's just that you have to get into that right lane again that's telling you, hey, are you bringing the vision forward? Are you devoted to the potency of your own frequency? Or are you going to let the frequency of existence continue to inform you, continue to control your world, and just keep you bouncing from one thing to another? So make your life a moving prayer. I would say going through this idea of knowing how the world is, yes, keeping that on the back burner. Okay, I know how the world is right now for the most part. I mean, we don't know, but we have an idea. We can predict the way things happen. Then opening to the potential that the world also has. It's kind of like there's a no and a yes here. The no is where we cave or fall back into our old programming, our old ways of thinking. You know, this world is the way it is. I can't do anything about it. I may as well just try and get through this life, not really ever following what I want, not really ever following what is most important to me, just trying to get by. You know, that would be on the side of almost giving up, but not quite. But really, instead of going from surviving, we want to go into thriving, right? In order to do that, we have to devote ourselves to the path of thriving. We have to devote ourselves to the path of potentials, of what could happen if we choose to emit that frequency all day long. And that's the key. We have to be the ones to emit that frequency. We can't expect it from others around us. We have to be the change. We have to be the frequency. Okay? So persistence, right? Getting into that persistent mindset of coming back every time, no matter how hard it is, to believing in your heart, believing in this flow, this dance, this other way that things can go here. Because as we know, things are very structured. It's quite a masculine framed way that we live life. It's get up, go do your stuff, have some time at the end of the day. You know, things are structured. But there's a bit more of a magical way we can live if we trust in flow and synchronicity, which does require bravery, because most of the population is following a similar structure, but it's quite limited. So if we want to go into the space of potentials and actually bring a frequency that's our own, we have to commit, we have to devote ourselves, we have to believe. So the last space, which is where we're going to ground this energy in, these are very much for our aura, very much for our mind to kind of grasp, this is what I need to do, this is what my aura is needing to emit around me all the time, is this frequency that is your own. This frequency that believes in who you are and what you want, and inspires that in other people, you know? Inspires what they want, inspires what they believe about life. So here's what we're going to ground in through this, our own frequency. Okay, interesting. The blue flame. Really interesting. And as we can see, we're coming through a gateway here. So it's almost like stepping into a new way of being, a new beginning, bringing something that maybe hasn't been seen before, right? So this is saying spontaneous awakening, activation, integration time. Super interesting, because when we come to life as this spontaneous, we allow for our spontaneous authenticity, our spontaneous truth, our spontaneous frequency to basically, we allow for it. That's all we do. We allow for it to come through without trying to put on some kind of mask, without trying to, use a familiar behavior that we've used before, a familiar action, a familiar so-and-so. We just allow for the spontaneousness of spirit of who we are to come through us. This is very activating, not just for us, but everyone around us. It may activate the unconscious side in some people. It may activate the light side in some people. So we're not always going to be plain sailing across the board with this kind of thing. Just wanted to make you aware of that. But with spontaneous awakening, you yourself are going to find more of your true essence, because you're opening your field more to love than you are to fear. Fear contracts your field. Your frequency is not able to emit as far when you're in fear as when you're in love. When you emit a frequency of love for yourself first and foremost, not that you love a situation or that you love a person necessarily, you conjure up love within inside of you, right? You have it within you there. That is the ultimate protection, because now love expands your field. You emit your true frequency, and you can take in more information that is going to help you understand every single second of the day what's going through you, what's emitting from you, what's coming to you, right? You might not understand everything. It might be more of an activation, for example. You might become just suddenly activated in a space of bliss and you don't know why, but maybe on some level you do. You've been working for this. You've been training yourself to get in that lane of potentials instead of lack, fear, predictability, mundaneness. You've not been falling back into that. So the last thing that I want to say about emitting your frequency, I would say that with this card specifically, we can get a little bit stuck here with the devotion and the way that the mind wants to go about this outcome of becoming awakened, activated, all this kind of stuff. The mind can get a little bit stuck because it starts to think it has to control everything. And that's where we're going back into a bit more of that control space, more of that has to have everything go a certain way. Otherwise, it's not working, otherwise we've failed. So we have to be careful along the way that in this part we do set ourselves up for what we want in the day. We set ourselves in that lane, and then all we do is we press the go button and we go and we let go, because then we get to integrate the information that comes our way. I believe that we're in a time right now where we have access to so much information, and as I'm sure you understand this too, we have so much information coming at us from all different angles. And it's kind of like if you read 10 books really quickly, and if you're not actually integrating these words, if you're not actually integrating this information, it's almost like you didn't even really read those books. You kind of just skimmed them. And I don't know about you, but for me, I would much rather read a book cover to cover, integrating every single little juicy nuance to it, every single imagination and story that comes through in my visual space that lights me up, rather than just taking in a bunch of words and information, because that just is for my mind. When we talk about integration, we talk about integrating the information from the mind into the body, into your very cells, into your bones. So if we can shift our energies to emit this frequency, to believe that it's possible time and time again, and let go once we've believed, because there's a certain amount of belief that can become overly intense. Let go once you believe. We can then come into the integration time. as I said, I think we're in a time of so much information that the next generation is going to have to integrate so much of what we've learned here, because a lot of us think that we have to keep gaining information, keep sharing information, but I think just small little nuggets of information, 20 minutes or so, can last you days, can last you weeks, because the integration of that has to go deep into your heart, has to go deep into the rewiring, the reprogramming, and that's what true activation is. Something shifts in your being. So it's very much related to embodiment. Yeah? This is why we have to ground this energy in. This blue flame is something we can call on to do that. Blue, connected to that communication center. When we speak of something that we want in our world, how often, especially when we're speaking to others, how often are we integrating what we've said ourselves? How long does it take? It might take years. You might be saying you might be sharing some of the most incredible information with the world. But whether you're integrating it on a deep, deep level could take years. It could take months. It could take days. Either way, when you come across some magnificent nugget of information, integration. That's how we get to that spontaneous awakening. That's how we get to that activation that our whole body can rest in and emit that love frequency we're talking about, emit that frequency of potentials of what this life could be and what this world could be. So, I encourage you to go back over any of the cards here that you wish to meditate with, or maybe write down some of these key points, maybe replay the video, whatever works for you to integrate, even if it's just sitting with yourself now and letting that integrate in its own way. Or maybe you want to take action. That's another way of integration as well. So I would say that thinking about emitting your own frequency rather than absorbing the frequencies around you is going to be where everything changes in your life. And there's already a lot of people out there that are emitting their own frequency. And those of us that are light shiners in this world, have to also make sure that we are emitting our frequency as well, because some people are emitting a frequency that is more for power, more for control. If we emit a frequency of pure heart, pure love, I think that is what's being called in this awakening time that we're in. That's what's being called of, is the great sacred mother is being called through to be respected once more, to be fully integrated again and allowed for, right? This space of synchronicity gets to be allowed for if we choose to go beyond predictability and step into possibility. Step into that spontaneous space where we allow all things to come through us and we don't automatically put a stronghold or a barrier or a wall around ourselves that is basically our wounded inner shadow self, some part of our inner child that forgot to believe that it's possible. So, again, if you would like some resources, some more information on anything that I shared here, you can email me at my email, misssynchronicity@gmail.com. If you would like a personal reading, then you can pledge to me on my Patreon page where it says readings, and I can do a spread like this for you that's very much more personal to you. I have many cards, so depending on career, relationships, all kinds of different energies can be brought to you by this here channeling with the cards. And I'm also doing one-on-one activation sessions where I take you through a space known as the Ancient House, which is what I've created in the Akashic realm. And there we work with the 5 elements in order to alchemize any fears, any traumas, any difficulties you're facing. We work with the unconscious, the conscious, and the superconscious mind in that space. So it's very much a meditative space that we go to, that I guide you through. So my services are readings or Akashic calls, one-on-one. So that's all I wanted to share with you for now for this collective reading. Really, I've enjoyed this space here with you, and I'm going to continue to ground that information in and integrate it into my aura, into my body, and into my mind. So I will see you next time. Take care, and many blessings your way.